In the heart of South America, nestled between the Pacific Ocean and the towering Andes Mountains, lies the nation of Ecuador, a land rich in biodiversity, vibrant cultures, and dramatic political shifts. But beneath the beauty of its landscapes, a silent war brews, a war not between nations but between order and chaos. At the center of this storm stands one man, Adolfo Macías Villamar, better known by his infamous alias, Fito. Fito wasn't born a kingpin. Like many who ascend in the world of crime, he came from the margins. His rise was forged through blood, loyalty, and fear. He started small, but he had vision. Ruthless, strategic, and charismatic, Fito rose through the ranks of the Ecuadorian underworld and eventually seized control of the feared Los Choneros gang, one of the country's most powerful criminal organizations. What began as a local street gang evolved under his leadership into a formidable drug trafficking empire with connections stretching into Colombia, Mexico, and beyond. For years, Ecuador had been seen as a peaceful transit country in the global narcotics trade. But Fito changed that. Under his influence, Ecuador became a battleground, a place where rival gangs, corrupt officials, and international cartels vied for dominance. Violence surged, prisons overflowed, and in the heart of it all, Fito thrived. He didn't operate from the shadows. In fact, even when incarcerated, Fito commanded his empire with the confidence of a CEO. He turned his prison into a fortress, a base of operations rather than a punishment. Walls meant to confine him became boundaries that protected him. Guards feared him, fellow inmates revered him. It was said that he lived in relative luxury behind bars, with access to mobile phones, gourmet food, and even armed security. For Fito, prison was just another seat of power. But everything began to change in early 2024. Ecuador was teetering on the brink. The murder of a presidential candidate, Fernando Villavicencio, sent shockwaves through the nation. Villavicencio had publicly accused Los Choneros and Fito of being behind a web of violence and corruption. Just days before he was gunned down, Villavicencio had said he received death threats from Fito himself. The assassination ignited outrage, prompting Ecuador's leadership to finally confront the criminal networks that had long operated with impunity. President Daniel Noboa, Ecuador's young and determined leader, declared a war on gangs. It was time to take back the country. His strategy? Start at the top. And that meant Fito. On January 7, 2024, Ecuadorian authorities launched a massive operation. The target? The regional prison in Guayaquil, where Fito was believed to be holed up. Over 3,000 military and police personnel were mobilized in one of the largest security operations in the country's history. Their mission was clear: transfer Fito to a maximum security facility and dismantle the power structures he had built within the prison system. But when they stormed his wing of the prison, Fito was gone. No one could believe it. A man under constant surveillance, surrounded by concrete walls and iron bars, had vanished without a trace. The immediate assumption? Help from the inside. Authorities scoured every corner of the facility. They interrogated guards. They reviewed surveillance footage. The conclusion was chilling. Fito had escaped in a meticulously planned operation that likely involved both inmates and corrupt officials. But the full scope of the escape was even more astonishing than initially thought. It wasn't just an escape, it was a statement. Within hours, chaos erupted across Ecuador. Gangs loyal to Fito launched coordinated attacks. Police officers were abducted. Vehicles were set ablaze. Explosions rocked major cities. It was as if the entire criminal underworld had been activated, sending a clear message to the government. Fito may be gone, but his reach was very much alive. President Noboa declared a nationwide state of emergency. The military was deployed to regain control. Curfews were enforced. Prisons were locked down. Yet the fear remained. Fito was now a ghost in the system, a fugitive with vast resources and nothing to lose. So how did he do it? How does one of the most dangerous men in South America simply disappear? The answer lies in Ecuador's deeply compromised prison system. Over the years, underfunding, corruption, and lack of oversight had turned many prisons into criminal strongholds. Guards were often underpaid and overpowered. Inmates smuggled in weapons, drugs and phones with shocking ease. Entire blocks were run by gangs rather than officials. Fito, knowing this, had laid the groundwork for his escape long before January 7th. Reports suggest that the day before the operation, he had received intelligence about the planned raid. His loyalists within the prison, possibly even among the guards, bought him time and space to disappear. Whether he escaped through a tunnel, a disguise, or simply walked out with forged documents remains a mystery. But what is clear is that it was no solo job. It was a network, precise, patient, and powerful. In the days that followed, international agencies got involved. Interpol issued a red notice. Neighboring countries tightened their borders. Drones scanned the skies. Roadblocks sprang up across Ecuador. But Fito was already steps ahead. Some say he fled to the dense jungles of Esmeraldas, where gangs operate under cover of foliage and fear. Others believe he crossed into Colombia, protected by allied cartels. There were even whispers of him boarding a boat to the Galapagos Islands, vanishing into the Pacific. Each theory, while unconfirmed, spoke to the same terrifying truth. The world's most wanted drug lord was out in the open, and no one knew where he would strike next. And strike he did. In the weeks that followed his escape, the wave of violence in Ecuador intensified. Assassinations, prison riots, car bombings all bore the hallmark of a man sending a message. This was more than revenge. It was a reassertion of power, a demonstration that even in exile, Fito was not defeated. His legend grew. In the barrios of Guayaquil and the backstreets of Manta, his name was whispered like a ghost story. To some, he was a villain. To others, a Robin Hood figure who defied authority and provided for his own. It was this duality, fear and admiration, that made him so dangerous. Meanwhile, President Noboa doubled down. He launched the Phoenix Plan, aimed at restructuring the prison system, rooting out corruption, and reclaiming lost territory from gang control. Elite units conducted raids day and night. Dozens of gang members were captured, weapons caches were seized, and yet, the man at the center of it all remained elusive. International pressure mounted. The United States and Colombia offered intelligence support. Surveillance was heightened at all ports and airports. Digital forensics teams tracked phone calls and messages, but Fito had gone silent. Not a single confirmed sighting, not a single trace left behind. Then came the videos. Grainy, unverified footage began circulating online. A man in a balaclava addressing the nation, claiming to be Fito, warning the government of dire consequences should the crackdown continue. Analysts debated the authenticity. Was it truly him, or just one of his loyalists, stoking the flames of fear? Regardless, the message was received. Ecuador stood on the edge, and the shadow of Fito loomed large over everything. Months passed, and while the government regained partial control over the prisons and streets, the question that haunted everyone remained unanswered. Where was Fito? Some believe he is living in luxury, protected by allies in Colombia or Peru. Others insist he never left Ecuador, hidden in plain sight with the help of a network that would rival any intelligence agency. There are even theories that he has altered his appearance with surgery, slipping through checkpoints undetected. But for the families of his victims, the escape is more than just a scandal. It's a wound, a reminder of the impunity that allowed one man to defy an entire nation. And for President Noboa, it is the greatest challenge of his presidency, to restore not just order, but confidence in a system that allowed such a man to flourish. Fito's escape isn't just about a man fleeing prison. It's a mirror held up to a country struggling to confront its own demons, corruption, inequality, and violence. His flight shattered the illusion of control and exposed the cracks in Ecuador's institutions. It forced the nation to ask, how did we let it get this far? And as Ecuador fights to reclaim its future, one thing is certain. The legend of Fito will linger. In wanted posters, in whispered warnings, in the tension that grips every police checkpoint and prison gate. Because as long as he's free, the war isn't over. Not for Ecuador, not for the region, not for the world.